beginning of the movie, we see Marcina sobbing uncontrollably, saying she failed to be a good mother. And we are shown that her daughter, Ida, has just died. With her voice shaking, she snarls that every single one of them will pay for this. She grabs a machete, marches to the stockyard behind the house, and without hesitation, begins hacking at the animals with savage force. Each swing is fueled by grief, mutated into blind rage. She then slowly walks toward a house, her entire body drenched in blood. While inside, a couple is happily celebrating their little girl's 4th birthday. Marcina stands outside, watching them through the door, and her tears fall quietly down her face. Then she turns away and keeps walking, like she already knows where her final destination is. The woman inside tells her daughter, Lastini, "When you grow up, wherever you go, never forget to come back home." But Lastini sees Marcina already hanging from the tree, her blood dripping like it's part of the darkness.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
30 years later, Arum invites her friends to her birthday party, which is just 5 days away. Suddenly, she spots a woman standing outside. Then, in an instant, that figure is right in front of her, but it turns out to be only her friend. Arum tries to steady her breath, but she still sees Marcina's ghost, and in panic, she drives a compass into Yun's back. Then she sees the ghost in Min's face and plunges the compass into her too. Moments later, Arum savagely attacks Diane as well. And after that, every student around her becomes Marcina's ghost, and Arum completely snaps, launching herself at everyone in sight. Arum is expelled from the school, and her mother, Lastini, is worried about her. She tells her other daughter, Leah, that Arum almost got into trouble with the police. Leah suggests that maybe it's time they consider a permanent solution, and she believes the best option is to admit Arum to a psychiatric hospital. Lastini responds, saying that even though Leah isn't related to Arum by blood, Arum is still her sister. Leah tries to clarify that she didn't mean it that way, but Lastini ignores her and leaves with Arum. On the way back home, Lastini tells Arum that she just needs some therapy and that it's normal. Arum asks, "What if Leah is right? What if I really am crazy?" To which Lastini reassures her that she's perfectly sane. "And even if Leah is right, I still love you, and I will search everywhere for a solution." Hearing this, Arum feels encouraged and tells herself she will be fine. But then she suddenly sees her own demonic reflection in the mirror, whispering, "You will be cured." In a flashback set 4 years earlier, Arum's father approaches her, but Arum slashes his neck with a knife. She tries to attack again, but Surya manages to push her down. At that moment, Lastini arrives, and before she can understand what's going on, Surya collapses. With his final breath, he tells her to take care of Arum and to ask Leah to heal her. He says that he has written everything in his diary, and then he dies. Back in the present, Lastini reads the diary, which reveals their daughter is cursed, a curse that returns on her birthday every leap year. It also lists people who might be able to free Arum and warns that she must be cured before her birthday to avoid more casualties. Meanwhile, Arum tells his brother Rama to sit on the merry-go-round, and the innocent kid trusts her. Arum starts spinning it, faster and faster, ignoring Rama's pleas to slow down as his voice turns to terrified screams. Lastini hears him and rushes out, yanking Arum away, and then, in the struggle to stop the spinning, Lastini's hand gets cut. In that instant, Arum snaps out of her possession, and she apologizes, but Lastini coldly tells her she's coming with her. As they sit in the car, Arum apologizes to Rama, and he makes her promise she won't ever do that again. Just then, Leah shows up, and when Lastini steps out to talk, Leah says, "I know you are taking Arum back to the shaman." She pulls Lastini aside and apologizes for earlier, insisting she never meant harm, to which Lastini hugs her and says she loves her just as much as she loves Arum. But Leah still insists she doesn't want Arum put through that again. Lastini insists she has no other choice, saying what happened at her school reminded her of what happened with their dad, and she refuses to let danger swallow them again. Leah stares at her and says that if that's the case, she's coming with her.
They visit a shaman,
who immediately knows that Arum has been possessed repeatedly. Rama says he needs to pee, so the shaman calls Neng and orders her to take him to the back, and Arum quietly follows them as well. After they leave, the shaman tells Lastini that a spirit has been forcing its way into Arum's body, describing it like a parasite. Meanwhile, Arum warns Rama to walk slowly and not to run into the field, but a few steps later, he suddenly vanishes. The shaman tells Lastini that the spirit inside Arum is extremely powerful, that Arum has no control over it, but that he can handle it and completely cure her. Suddenly, Arum's head jerks and starts spinning violently, and she sees a child pointing in a direction. Arum witnesses that Rustam is an evil shaman who sacrifices innocent small children. The shaman says he will prepare for the ritual, and after he leaves, Leah says something is not right, but Lastini says, let's try it first. Meanwhile, the shaman hears a noise in the woods, and when he follows it, he finds Arum standing at a distance, crying. Suspicious, he goes closer, but the moment he touches her, her face flickers into a ghostly version of Arum that makes him recoil, but then it vanishes. However, when he turns around, Marcina's ghost suddenly appears and lunges at him, then disappears again. But when he stands up, Marcina's ghost grabs him by the throat and lifts him in the air. Just then, Lastini and the kids arrive, and the ghost hisses that this man is more evil than me, and that Arum belongs to me. Lastini begs Arum to snap out of it, but the ghost flings the shaman so hard he's impaled on a tree branch. Arum then collapses, and they take her away. The next day, they visit a temple, where Ruhana performs a ritual on Arum, tying her tightly to a chair with a rope, then pouring holy water over her to cleanse her. She then tells Lastini she knows exactly what happened to her daughter. She instructs her to close her eyes and drag up her deepest buried memory. After a moment, Lastini recalls telling her father she wants to go play at the river tomorrow. They laugh and tell her the river is dangerous, but Marcina's ghost suddenly slams onto their windshield, causing the car to swerve out of control, and they crash. Her parents died in that accident, but she survived, and a man then picked her up and carried her away. Lastini tells her that she saw the figure who killed her parents, and Ruhana explains that the same entity is controlling Arum. She says, the spirit is vengeful, a festering grudge that never dies. Ruhana tells her she can't cure Arum, because it has to be her mother. Meanwhile, Arum begs Rama to untie her, and he says their mother told him not to, but she cries and says it hurts. Just then, Marcina approaches him and tells him to go ahead and help his sister. The innocent boy slowly steps forward, and when he reaches Arum, she urges him to hurry. He tries to loosen the knot, but he can't break it. Suddenly, Arum begins to levitate off the ground, and as she glances at him, he collapses in pure fear. Arum drifts away, and Rama screams for his mother. Hearing his voice, Lastini runs over to him, but she then sees Arum attacking a gardener, moments away from killing him, when Ruhana shouts her real name, Marcina. Hearing that name, Marcina turns, then approaches her, and before anyone can react, she lunges and viciously bites down on Ruhana's fingers. She then bolts out of the temple, and when Leah calls after her, Arum smashes a bottle on the road and deliberately walks barefoot across the broken glass. Lastini and Leah watch a truck advancing towards her, and her skull smashes straight into the windshield, causing her to collapse and fall unconscious. They then reach their last destination, and Lastini says she is looking for Rajat, to which a man tells her that Rajat has been waiting for her. Lastini goes inside to meet him, and he says he has been waiting for her for years, asking what took her so long. She apologizes, saying she didn't believe in supernatural things before, and he asks her to take a seat. As she sits, he tells her he promised her husband everything would be ready, but because she never believed and didn't come, now it's almost too late. And if this ritual fails, the only option would be killing the host. Lastini says she doesn't want her daughter to die, but he insists he won't let that happen, because he and her husband already had a plan. Then he adds that maybe she hasn't realized it, but the devil has been clinging to her since she was a child. They then begin setting up the ritual, where Arum is made to sit in one place and a basket is placed on top of her, and they cover it fully with a cloth. Lastini asks Leah why she's wearing the same clothes as Arum, and Leah says she doesn't know. Those clothes were handed to her, and she was told to put them on. but she assumes it's connected to the ritual. Rajat begins the ritual, chanting incantations, and then he calls to the devil, saying he is making an offering, and this prayer will force it to move into another body. He orders it to abandon this child, claiming his intent is firm like stone. Then he cuts the throats of the chickens hanging above Arum one by one, and the sacrifice makes Arum scream and causes Leah to vomit blood. Rajat starts dancing in a trance, and when Lastini asks what's happening to Leah and gets no answer, she runs to him, demanding to know what is happening to her other daughter. Rajat snaps at her to shut up, saying this was his agreement with Surya. He explains that the devil needs a special host so Arum can be saved, which is why Surya adopted Leah to raise her as Arum's replacement. But because Lastini never brought them here earlier, Leah grew up into an adult instead of being ready when she was still a child. Shocked, Lastini rushes back to Leah and desperately tells her she had no idea any of this was planned. She insists that nobody is going to be sacrificed, but Leah says that if it's for Arum, she's willing to accept it. Lastini grabs her and shakes her, trying to snap her out of it, saying none of her children are going to be sacrificed. Meanwhile, Rajat lifts the basket, only to find that Arum is gone. Just then, every torch suddenly goes out, and Marcina's ghost snarls that all of them will pay for this. Then, one by one, the people there become possessed and start violently hurting themselves with their own hands. Horrified, Leah asks Lastini why this is happening, but Lastini has no answer and can only watch as those people tear themselves apart. The ghost appears in front of Rajat, and he shouts at her to leave, insisting he's not afraid, but she suddenly attacks him and throws him to the ground. Lastini tells Leah they need to find Arum immediately, while the ghost keeps tormenting Rajat. Rajat screams for Lastini to go home, but the ghost grabs him and smashes his head against the gong. Lastini calls out Arum's name, and that shout jolts Arum back out of the possession. Lastini immediately takes her children and leaves, admitting that everything is her fault, and reassuring Arum that she did nothing wrong. She tries to calm both of them, saying they just need to find a safe place to rest, and that's when her eyes fall on the locket, the one holding the key to their grandfather's house. She brings the children to Grandpa's house, and it's revealed that Marcina was her dad's first wife. Lastini takes Arum into a room and tells her she'll lock the door from the outside. But just as they turn to leave, Arum suddenly becomes possessed again, violently screaming and thrashing. Lastini and Leah rush to restrain her, holding her tightly so she doesn't hurt herself. After a tense struggle, Arum slowly regains control. Her breathing steadies, and she calms down. Still terrified, she tells her mother to just tie her up before the possession returns. Lastini locks Arum in a room, and she tells Leah, whatever happens, don't open the door. She then goes to confront Bagheer directly, accusing him of killing her parents, insisting she remembers his face at the crash. Bagheer argues he was trying to save her, but she asks why he was even there. She asks what his relationship was with Marcina, and he admits that he loved her, but she didn't love him back. He explains that it all began when Miko married the woman he truly loved, Marcina, only because he was rich, while he was just their family driver. Marcina later gave birth to a baby who wasn't physically perfect, and the rich man refused to accept having a flawed child, so he blamed Marcina for it. After that, he married his own cousin, Ronti, and that's when Lastini was born. Because Lastini was healthier than Marcina's daughter, Marcina and her child were treated even worse. To avoid social shame, he locked Marcina and her daughter inside the house, letting the sick child remain untreated until she died. And after losing her daughter, Marcina ended her own life. He says Marcina paid the price for everything, and because he once loved her, he wanted to help her soul get revenge against her family, against Miko and his bloodline. So he used black magic to summon Marcina's ghost. Lastini begs Bagheer to return her daughter to the way she was, insisting that Arum is innocent and doesn't deserve any of this. There's only 1 hour left until Arum's birthday, when Marcina fully possesses her, forcing her to unleash piercing screams, while Bagheer tells Lastini that he can't help her. Arum begins to levitate in the air, laughing maniacally under possession. She then crawls across the wall toward the door, warning them that every one of them will pay for this. She then starts slamming her head against the door, terrifying Leah and Rama, and in that moment, they look up and realize she's now right above them. Sensing the danger, Leah tries to escape with Rama, but Arum suddenly crashes through the ceiling and appears in front of them, and in the next moment, she takes Rama away. Leah desperately searches for him and hears his voice, She follows the sound and finds him inside the bathroom, but as soon as she steps closer, the door suddenly slams shut. Meanwhile, Lastini spots Arum on the way, who runs into a shed, and when Lastini rushes after her, she spots a pair of legs under the bed. She cautiously steps forward and slowly bends down to look beneath it, but there's nothing there. Suddenly, Ida's ghost appears right in front of her, startling her, before instantly vanishing. Then, Lastini sees Ida again outside the window, pointing toward the woods, but when Lastini steps outside to follow her, there's no one there. Lastini rushes deeper into the woods, and not far away, she sees Arum standing there. Lastini asks what she's doing and slowly approaches, but when Arum turns around, they both freeze in horror, seeing that Arum was eating her own intestines. In that moment, Arum feels a sharp pain and collapses to the ground, dying instantly. But then she realizes Arum was never actually there. The ground is empty. She gets back up and angrily screams Marcina's name, but suddenly, blood drips onto her face, and when she looks up, she sees Arum crawling down toward her. Shocked, she calls out Arum's name, and Arum freezes for a moment, only to suddenly morph into Marcina, startling her, and when she looks up again, Arum has vanished once more. Frustrated, she screams, demanding that Marcina give her daughter back, and daring the spirit to show herself, when she suddenly hears Arum calling. Lastini finally finds Arum, but she is standing at the edge of a cliff. Arum insists, "I'm not crazy," and Lastini urges her to come closer, but Marcina seizes control of Arum's body and spits that Lastini is the one who's lost her mind. Lastini angrily orders Marcina to stop, and the spirit taunts her, "Do you want to see your daughter die?" In an instant, Bagheer throws a cloth over Arum, and they quickly grab her. They take Arum to the river, where Bagheer begins the ritual, chanting incantations and ordering the spirit to return to the darkness. He then burns the paper he used to summon Marcina, and suddenly, blood pours from Arum's mouth, soaking the white cloth in red. Bagheer forcefully pulls Marcina's spirit out of Arum's body, then removes the cloth covering Arum's face, but she appears unconscious. Lastini rushes to her and tries to wake her, and moments later, Arum suddenly jolts awake, finally free from Marcina's possession. Bagheer orders them to leave immediately, but before they can get out of the river, Marcina drags Lastini and Bagheer underwater. They struggle desperately to escape, but Marcina reaches Bagheer first, grabs his leg, and then brutally attacks him, killing him. Moments later, Bagheer's severed head floats into Lastini's hands, which she throws back into the water. She then runs to Arum and hugs her tightly, trying to calm her down and reassure her that it's over. Lastini helps her stand and says, "Let's go home." But Lastini sees Marcina lunging toward them, and to protect her daughter, she pushes Arum back, and Marcina ends up possessing Lastini. Arum approaches her, confused and worried, asking, "What's wrong?" But Lastini suddenly turns toward her, startling her. Arum steps back in fear as Marcina speaks through Lastini, warning that she and Miko's descendants will all pay. Marcina picks up a stone and approaches Arum, saying, "You made me suffer." But just as she raises the stone to strike her, Lastini fights back from within and stops the attack. Lastini forces out a warning to Arum, telling her to run, while Marcina tries to regain control. Determined to stop her once and for all, Lastini smashes the stone against her own head, knocking herself to the ground. Then, to trap Marcina forever, she repeatedly slams her head against a large rock, killing herself, sealing Marcina's spirit inside her own body. A few days later, we see Arum together with her brother and sister at Lastini's grave. Arum tells her that she got accepted into her dream university, and Leah gently tells Lastini to rest in peace, assuring her that she doesn't need to worry, as she will take care of her siblings. After that, they all leave together to go home, and the movie ends.